Welcome to Liesl's Artistic Studio. I hope you're ready to just paint something cute, simple, easy, and quick, but most importantly, pure fun, because that's exactly what this watercolor tutorial is going to provide today. For supplies today, I first have a piece of watercolor paper cut to the size 8 by 10 inches, but of course you can paint this on whatever size you'd like. Now, I've got a few pencil marks here on my paper that I will go over in just a minute, but I also have here some watercolor paints, a paper towel, water, and of course, some brushes. I have 3 sizes I'll be using today, which will be some from my upcoming personally designed Craftimo brush set. Today I'll be using the number 1 rigger, the number 6 round, and the 1/4 inch angle brush. If you're interested in these brushes when they are available, I do have a link in the description of this video, along with the links for the other products you'll see me using today, that will help notify you when these brushes are released, which I'm hoping will be very soon. Now I'm going to tape my paper down with some artist tape just to help keep it in place for the video and to help prevent some potential warping, and then we'll be ready to go. Now, as you can probably see, I do have some pencil marks on my page, which is optional. I have practiced this in a much more relaxed and free-handed way, which I will show you in just a minute. And this is very doable, especially if you enjoy freehand painting or if you prefer not to have potential visible pencil lines showing. I personally am one who paints better with a few lines as a guide. It kind of just helps me visualize and plan out my composition a little bit. And I also think that it helps a little bit with the blank page intimidation that some of us feel sometimes. But basically, I've made some lines or marks for the flower stems that I'm planning to have. I will have about 7 main flowers with maybe a few buds here and there. I've got some lines for some thin grass lines and maybe some lines for some longer, thicker leaves as well. I've just marked a little V shape for the base of the flower where I plan for my petals to stem out and spread from. Now, this really is a rough sketch, just a basic idea of what I'm going to be painting and where things will be placed. This is a time where you can experiment, you can create your own painting. I am just the guide, but you are the artist here. And as I said before, this really is a great piece to try freehanding if you'd rather. However, I do plan to trace over this painting when I'm done and create an outline for this piece to put onto my Etsy shop if you'd rather have a little bit more guidance and help. I will leave a link for that in the description of this video. Now, I am also choosing to paint this very simply today using a limited color palette. You, of course, can use any color scheme that you'd like. Today, I've chosen to use a little bit of this olive green color for the greenery, and then a bright golden orange for the flower petals. I'm just going to use a touch of Gamboge and mix in a small amount of cadmium orange to make this lovely, rich yellow-orange color. Now, I don't use olive green often, but I thought this warm green would go very well with the yellow-orange. And actually, I almost painted these flowers pink, so I'll have to try that out sometime too. All right, now using my number 6 round, I'll load my brush with some of the yellow-orange and begin painting in the flower petals for the flower, one at a time. I'll start with the tip of the brush near the center of the flower, slightly inside that penciled in V that I showed you earlier. I'll press down on the brush and then pull it outward slightly, and I may do 2 or 3 of these type of strokes overlapping or close together to form one full petal. Now, I am purposefully leaving the ends of the petals a little bit jagged or uneven to give the flower more of that free and wild flower look. I'll paint in maybe 3 or 4 of these individual petals for each flower until I've got the look that I want. Now, you may notice that I usually will start by painting in the center petal first, and then I'll paint the other petals off to each side of that. That center and first petal really kind of gives a starting point where you can pick the direction and the size that you want the rest of the flower head to follow. This is really a time where you can just have fun, play around, and try out new ideas. And it may not look exactly like mine when you're done, and that's okay too. In fact, I really think these flowers could make a lovely little bookmark or card. They are quick and simple, and you can add as many or as few flowers as you like. You can change up the colors, and they are just enjoyable to paint. Now, here's a couple of my scrap pieces of paper that I was practicing techniques and colors free-handed on, but you can see how just one or even two of these flowers and a little bit of greenery makes a really nice painting. I hope you're having fun with this tutorial so far. I really like to try to provide a variety of skill-leveled pieces so there's something for everyone. So if you are enjoying my painting and teaching style, I hope you'll subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my new and upcoming tutorials that I put out every week. All right, the 7 main flower heads are now done. So let's just throw in a couple of small buds. I'm sort of going to paint these in a similar way. They are just much smaller in size with basically just one petal shape instead of 3 or 4. Now let's throw in some stems for these flowers. I really want them to be thin and delicate, so I'm going to pull out the number 1 rigger brush now. I'm going to load this brush up with color, but actually before I paint in the stems, let's paint in some green base parts to the flower that the petals can stem out from. I'm kind of just going to follow that same V shape again, and for some extra added detail, I'm going to paint some very small, very thin grassy lines coming out from the top, and maybe even a few on the sides here and there to kind of continue on with that wildflower sort of look. Now I'll add in a tiny bit of green at the base of the flower buds as well, but it definitely won't be as big and dramatic. All right, now we can paint in the stems. So go ahead and load that rigger or liner brush nice and full, and then let's paint in a dark, thin green line stemming from the base of the flower down to the bottom of the page. And as a side note, sometimes it helps on these really long lines to move your whole arm while you paint rather than just moving your wrist. You may also notice that I've started adding in some extra lines in here once in a while that don't necessarily connect straight to a flower. This is just kind of a fun added in grassy accent, but totally optional. Okay, that looks pretty good. I've got my stems and some thin grassy accents here and there. This is very pretty and delicate looking. In fact, you probably could just leave this painting just like this and call it done if you wanted. But I did plan on putting in some larger leaves in here, so let's give that a try and see what happens. For this part, I'm actually going to use an angle brush. Now, if you'd rather, you can use a brown brush instead, but I kind of like how the angle brush handles this. So I'm going to load the brush with color. I will hold it with the longer tip facing downward, sort of like it looks upside down. I'll pick my leaf spot and start with the thin or flat end, painting a small thin line of color. Then, as I move the brush more, I'm going to slowly start to turn the brush handle with my fingers so that the bristles are using the larger area or the flat or angled end to create a thicker center of the leaf. Then when I near the end of the leaf, I will turn it back to the thin side to finish it off with a nice point. Now, this technique may take a little bit of practice. I'm not sure if I explained it very well, so if you want to give this a try, it may be a good idea to practice it on a test or scrap piece of paper first before trying this on the final piece. And although this technique may take some time to get the hang of, this really is a great brush stroke to know. It's quick and simple, and it really is quite fun to do. This is a great way to make a fast and good looking leaf or grass. Now I'll just add several of these leaves in different lengths and sizes throughout the page. But a word of caution, don't get carried away and put too many of these on here. A little goes a long way, and sometimes less is more. All right, I feel pretty satisfied with that, but I do feel like I want to add in a few more of these really thin grass lines to help balance this out a little bit. And then we can move on to the final step. Now, this next part is also optional. It kind of just adds a little bit more detail and completes and finishes the piece off. So using my number 6 and some more olive green, I'm going to paint some small little leaves directly onto a few of the flower stems. Again, nothing too special, just a little something extra. And that's it for this quick, simple, and fun wildflower painting. And now that you know the basics, the color, size, and composition possibilities are endless. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had some fun and maybe even learned something new. If you did enjoy this tutorial, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel so I can continue to help you discover your artistic side.